Alrighty. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Family Caucus, where wit, wisdom, and a whirlwind of opinions come together to tackle America's political landscape. As a family deeply rooted in the world of politics, we bring a wealth of experience and diverse perspectives to the table. Each week, we'll engage in lively debates and insightful conversations on current events, hot topics, and more. Ultimately, we'll explore the need for unity, the power of humor, and the importance of challenging the status quo. So whether you're a political junkie or just looking to make sense of the world around you, join us as we navigate the complexities of American politics. Together, we'll inform, entertain, and inspire each other to become a part of the solution in shaping our country's future. And with that, let's go ahead and jump right into today's topics. First one, we're just going to kind of go rapid fire here. We're going to get some hot takes from the both of you, hopefully short and sweet. Number one, this came out, I believe, on Wednesday, but Tony Blinken came out and said that the Ukraine will eventually become a member of NATO. Is World War III imminent? Why else would you kind of say this? Let's start with you, Dad. What did you take of Blinken's comments on Ukraine?
Well, I think it's an obvious play to strengthen Ukraine's resolve and get the Congress moving in that direction to send more resources and armaments to Ukraine, and that it's also a signal to Vladimir Putin. We're not afraid to get real here, so you better get moving out, and let's bring an end to this thing soon. That's just my hot take.
Okay, Mary.
Mine's. I think it's more about the election. I don't think it has as much to do about actually helping Ukraine as they want it to seem. So we can get more into that if we want to.
Okay. Interesting. Number two topic, Biden calls for a ceasefire in Gaza, says that we will change policy if Israel does not change direction there. This comes just days after an Israeli airstrikes killed 7 food aid workers there in Gaza. Mary, we'll start with you on this one. What did you make of Biden's comments and everything going on in Israel right now?
Absolutely sickening. I think Israel has absolutely lost the moral high ground here. There is a very complex situation, but they were absolutely wrong. And not only did they admit that they were wrong, but they just kind of kept going. And it was not just one airstrike. There were 3 on a very well marked from above. Absolutely disgraceful.
All right. Dad, what'd you make of those comments?
I actually going to flip the script here on Mary Catherine and say it was more about the election than it was about the outcome in Gaza. Biden is bleeding support from the 18 to 29-year-olds, which he needs, and they are, deeply against Israel going into Gaza as heavily as they are. And of course, the far left progressives have never been with Biden on this. So it's more about the election than anything else. Notwithstanding the fact that it was an awful occurrence. But they have the left has been really pushing hard on the Biden administration to get them to do a ceasefire, which is just capitulating to Hamas.
So
Mary, you gonna say something?
You're talking about like Biden's response, not Netanyahu's. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Netanyahu. I don't care about what Biden says. Like he is so wishy-washy. I honestly could give 2 shits less. He's gonna say whatever he can to get elected. I'm talking about Netanyahu's. That was an absolute disgrace. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there's a disgrace or an accident. I don't think it was intentional. Can't say that right now. But to William's question about Biden's comments calling for a ceasefire, I think it's about the election more so than it is about Gaza.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But I mean, something that's always kind of rubbed me the wrong way about this whole entire thing and how it's been playing out in Palestine is, Mary talked about it a little bit, the moral high ground. This is war. What are we talking about, really? War is ugly, and there's going to be collateral damage. And, people talk about the amount of kids and women that have died, and Hamas has been notorious for using human shields, and that's one of their tactics that they laid out. And I think that it's deplorable, all of the behavior by them. And I think to say that somebody needs to watch out when we're doing war, what's the point of war?
Right, but we're in a deconflicted zone. That's where this truck was, that they cleared so that humanitarian aid could get into Gaza so they could get... If we're going to get into that, we really should, but...
Okay. I'm not as aware of the situation. I see people...
I don't think it was intentional, but to William's point...
Absolutely.
You think they intentionally killed aid workers?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely not. But we'll get into that. Number 3, No Labels came out yesterday saying that they are not going to move forward. Did not find a candidate. Listed about 4 or 5 names that they said just didn't come forward, didn't come through with it where they thought they would. Dad, I know that this one kind of hits home to you. What did you make of No Labels going no further?
Well, they're cowards. They went about it the wrong way. I was the national delegate, hoping that there would be an alternative for the 70% of Americans who don't want a Biden-Trump rematch. Hopefully, get the country moving and united in a positive direction for a change. That said, they went about it the entire wrong way. It's not up to the leadership of No Labels to go find an acceptable candidate for the rest of us to absorb. They should have opened it up to people who wanted to be a No Labels candidate, who wanted to be president of the United States, and have them run in a national primary, blockchain secure national primary. In my opinion, I offer this to them to use ranked choice voting to pick their nominees and also to pick their issue sets. This was a typical inside DC beltway. It ended up just being a grift, and hopefully they'll just go away now. But No Labels, there's no candidates, no new ideas, no path forward. They should just roll up the 10 stakes and go away.
Yeah. Dad knows more about this than I do, but I do think they had a great opportunity that they totally threw away. And it's going to make it harder, like having the platform that they did and that people kind of knew what they were, and the fact that it was just kind of like this poof, gone. I think people are going to steer away from, going that route in the future because there are no legs. It had no grounding, even for a little bit.
One more. When I spoke to one of the leaders back in November, they were trying to position this as a way to stop Donald Trump from getting elected. And this guy was a Republican I was talking to. So what happened was they recognized that they were going to do more damage to the Democrats and actually help elect Donald Trump. And these are basically Democrats who were running this thing in the first place. Nancy Jacobson, her husband, the pollster Mark Penn, old Clinton ties, and she was a fundraiser for John Kerry, I think, maybe. Anyway. And I think the Democratic establishment got them to drop this effort because it was going to do more damage to Biden than it's going to do to Trump. And I don't think you do that. I think you do it to give Americans an option, a choice, rather than trying to control the outcome. But they're DC folks, inside the Beltway folks. They're trying to control the outcome. So I'm very disappointed and. But hopeful for the future still.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that really stuck out to me in the whole exchange was kind of both parties celebrating it on Twitter, and both parties really saying, this was a right wing, dark money, secretive thing trying to keep us from electing Joe Biden, and then the left wing's coming out saying the same thing. This was just left wing dark money, trying to or prevent Donald Trump. It's like both sides of the coin. And when both parties are celebrating something, something's wrong. And I think that kind of can segue a little bit. Dad, you touched on ranked choice voting there.
Yeah.
Where do you think that plays in? Because you see headlines on both sides saying this is just right wing dark money, left wing dark money. Anytime I see dark money, I think people that are just too lazy to show the work. Right? They just don't want to dig that deep. They just say, "Oh, it's dark money." You can't look too far into it. It's just dark money. Dark money's at play here. And when both sides of the aisle are celebrating something like this, huge red flag for me. What did you make of that?
That's good radar for you. And this is the conspiracy. It's either a fact or a conspiracy. I mean, it's like you can't in this country have a disagreement on issues. If you don't agree with something, it's dark money, right? To your point. If you don't understand something, it's a conspiracy. It's just lazy intellects trying to just win an election in a binary duopoly that I think has run its course. I think the two-party system is broken, corrupt, and failing the country and, frankly, human freedom around the world. And it's time for a change. And that's one of the reasons why I was supporting No Labels, just because it was a legitimate alternative to the 5 candidates we have running right now. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Cornel West, Jill Stein, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They're all not worthy of the presidency, in my estimation.
Yeah. Mary, any comments there?
No, I agree. I mean, there's really nothing else to add here.
Well, if third parties aren't going to be the solution.
I don't think all conspiracy theories are crazy or lazy. I do think
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I think that's a default for most people. when they can't
Yeah.
when they don't like something or they can't explain it, they go, oh, it's conspiracy. It's out of my because they don't trust.
That's natural. That is a human, I don't want to say human flaw, but it's very natural to start. You want to make sense of what's going on, but then, people come up with these crazy conspiracies and then some are right. And you're like, damn,
Well, it's becoming more of the quick default than anything else. To William's point, it's just lazy.
Not really. It's not becoming anything like quicker than it ever has been. Conspiracy theories go back for all ages of human history.
It's the internet has fueled
social media. Yeah.
Social media. All that's done is like people just talk about their conspiracy theories, and then everyone's like, "Oh, that kind of makes sense. Oh, that kind of makes sense." And then you have like an Epstein situation, and you're like, "Damn."
Okay, but that when something is wrong and it's validated or not validated, facts or no facts, it fuels every other conspiracy theory. Like Tucker Carlson's interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh my God! I mean, just rife with bullshit. I mean, just in his introductory email, which I'm doing an analysis of, a critique of, it's just off the chain cuckoo and wrong and and dangerous, and it just spreads like wildfire. Back in the day, before the internet, these things were contained and thought through before they were put to the public. And now there's no recourse in the marketplace to negatively impact these or to have negative reinforcement on these things. It's like it's valorized and it's subsidized and monetized. It's disgusting and dangerous.
I think something that was really interesting that came out yesterday, RFK went on Chris Cuomo's show, and Cuomo basically said, the problem with your campaign right now is that everybody thinks you're a conspiracy theorist. And RFK, I think, had one of the best responses. He said, well, let's go through them. Which ones was I wrong about? And they couldn't do it. He was like, well, these are conspiracies. These were crazy when I first brought them up. Go ahead, let's go through them one by one. And RFK has been right on the money with a lot of what he's been saying.
Well, again, his introductory video from the State of the Union was brilliant, very well done, a great diagnosis. But his policy prescriptions, are 90% awful, just awful. I mean, I like what he's doing on food and chronic disease in this country, and amen. I think, and I hope if that's the difference maker in this election, that'll be a step forward for this country, because we've got to do something about our chronic diseases and our physical health. But other than that, he's just a Democrat. But bad.
Just like Trump in 2016, it resonates with the people when the people are also being labeled as these crazy conspiracy theorists all over the world, and then you're like, hey, we're on a bit of a heater here. We've been right. So this guy's actually pointing out a lot of the flaws on both sides of the aisle here. He's worth my vote here, at least to show the establishment that I'm not going to be, a sheep to either party here. And I think that's the vote that he's getting, and he's only getting 12%, despite being censored, despite being suppressed on social media by the Biden administration. So
he'll
I think that it says a lot.
He'll get a spike after no labels getting out, and people will go, I don't have to like everything he says, but he will shake things up, and maybe that's good enough.
And he'll make a little bit of a difference. That's like we said in the last episode, that he'll make that little bit of a change. People are like, ooh, he's got a point. This made a big difference. So I think,
Yeah, and then for people who wanted to see something different for a no labels or an independent candidate, Kennedy would offer at least a protest vote for people.
Yeah,
who can say, look, I don't agree with any. I mean, like I said, I don't agree with 90% of what he believes in, but the one thing that I would like and this country needs is the thing I'm voting for. I mean, we have it pretty good, despite, like Tucker Carlson said, this country's in collapse. No, it's not. We live in a buffet of excess, and you get to choose whatever you want for the most part in this world relative to human history.
Well, and that could be a sign of collapse.
Yeah, collapse is a trajectory call, I think, and we're either getting better or we're getting worse, and I think we're getting worse at the moment.
Well, I think there's a lot of metrics that aren't being discussed that would give us a little bit more balance in our thinking. But this is still the safe harbor in the world for human and financial capital, and don't discount that power. How people are still coming to this nation in by the millions. They're trying to get into this country, and
That's
so
not trying. They're getting in pretty much for the
They're
free
not-
pass.
Everyone's getting in. Not everyone's
All
getting.
welcome here.
Yeah, they're not. Well,
Only 7 million over the last 3 years.
I'm not saying they don't get in, son, but some of them don't get in. But
a
my
free
point is, they're not going somewhere else. Okay,
Because they don't want them.
Western Europe has
Those people are
problem, not
welcome
nearly as bad
here.
as ours. Well,
I think
not
that's
true.
a message that the American people are ready to hear.
I don't
You
disagree.
can go to Holland. You can have what? Yeah.
I don't
If you can
disagree.
get on a boat, Holland.
Yeah. We have plenty of terrorists coming in. What was the guy from Argentina or the leader of the Colombian gang that just got arrested in Texas? And it's just like, I'm free to go again.
Oh, Venezuela, yeah. No.
Yeah, we'll see what crime he does.
Problems, guys. I'm not saying we don't have problems, but I think
The trajectory is poor.
I
think that's why Donald Trump is leading in the polls right now. If everything was really going so well,
because people don't like Joe Biden. They're both in the negative six. They're unfavorables are both in the 60s. They're awful.
it's not because they don't like him, and people are still saying, "I'm going to vote for Trump over him." Every poll that's come out in the last month has shown Trump up.
Those polls are tightening too. But we'll see. But the abortion question hasn't been put to the issue hasn't been put at Donald Trump's feet either. That's never been associated with Donald Trump electorally for him, and that's going to sting. And they're going to hit hard on that. And they should.
Can he flip flop on that? The way he's flip flop on other things?
Donald Trump.
Yeah, he'll do it to say, let's win the election.
TikTok. Where the money, where those. He's already come out and signaled 15 weeks. He'll probably take the playbook that Glenn Youngkin put out there, and I think we talked about this in the last episode, that he'll just move it earlier in the cycle and say, I'm at 15 weeks and be done with it, and close his campaign by attacking Joe Biden and his performance on immigration and economy. And that'll be it.
Any potential for Youngkin to be on the ticket?
Sure. I don't. It's not my sense. I think the strong player right now is still Ben Carson.
But I think Virginia is a swing state that could be secured with, and I think that's where Donald Trump really needs to start looking, is in some of these swing states to get the electoral votes. What do you think about Youngkin potentially being on the ticket?
What's that?
Yeah, you got to find ones that are willing to be associated.
That's the only way that it could work.
It will be determined. It'll be if they need. Okay, if they need black or female votes, they'll go for a black or a female. If they need more white, college-educated suburban men to win the battleground states, they'll go with a guy like Glenn Youngkin. It'll be determined by what they need at the time, and that's why they're going to hold out till Milwaukee to win.
I mean,
it's my estimation.
But I also think that Youngkin may or may not want to be associated with Trump.
He'll run in 28.
He'll want it.
Exactly what I'm saying. He'll run in 28.
To run in 28.
He wants to run on the coattails of Trump. I think he wants to run on his own. And I've been in a meeting with him. I trust him with the nuclear codes. I trust him with my life. Like, that man is a leader. And that is from being in a meeting with him where, like, I was in there for an hour. That is a leader. And I don't think it would be smart on his part to join the ticket.
Well, I don't think he'll be picked for a number of reasons. I don't think that's what they'll need in the poll with the polling. And I think Donald Trump will want to have more of a historic Ben Carson vice president, but he also doesn't want someone who's going to likely run in 2028, taking up that space. Well, he doesn't. He won't want that spotlight off of him. And Ben Carson doesn't draw a spotlight.
Yeah, but Youngkin, I mean, Trump is not going to run in 28 if he's thinking that he's going to win now. And I think Youngkin could secure some of that 30 to 40% of the base, the MAGA vote, by tying his coattails to this and then saying, all right, let's pivot closer as he gets to 28.
Well, again, I think it's going to be what Donald Trump needs to win the election, period. That's all he's going to see. He's a great white shark. He just feeds. Okay. And what he's going to need to feed on are the votes that are in those battleground electoral college states. And if he needs to get the black vote from 15 to 20%, if he needs to get 18 to 29-year-olds, which is what the Democrats need to get right now, if he needs to get suburban men and college-educated women, they'll go with someone like a Youngkin. Youngkin would take it. He should take it. But I don't think Youngkin will go with anyone who is going to be a candidate in 28.
Yeah, Trump, gotcha. Let's take now a little bit of a deeper dive into two of the things that we did talk about. One that I wanted to revisit if no labels is not going to be, or a third party candidate is never going to be big enough to secure that kind of vote. And I think that that's why ultimately it failed and why they couldn't find a big name person to go for it. What are some other potential things like ranked choice voting that could help with the two-party system that continues to fail? And I think, people look at elections and they look at, what's become clear in 16 and 20 is like nobody trusts elections anymore, and it definitely doesn't do the will of the people. So what are some ways that we can start to see the will of the people enacted, at the presidential level?
I'm gonna take a break. He just threw up.
the dog. Well, having seen the benefits of ranked choice voting here for the Virginia Republican Party, I think ranked choice voting, if it's used for party purposes, I don't think the public is ready for general elections, certainly not national elections, statewide elections. Some states do it. Maine, Alaska have done general elections with using ranked choice voting, and relatively successful with respect to not necessarily shaping the outcome, but the people being secure in the method of elections. That said, what I've seen here in Virginia is that it has strengthened the Republican Party from within, because it dialed down the negative attacks inside the party, and they focused on policy versus personalities. And that was a huge benefit to Glenn Youngkin and Winsome Sears and Jason Miyares here in Virginia. It really did unify the Republican Party. It brought them back together much quicker than they would have before. And because of the lack of fighting internally in the campaign and attacks on Glenn Youngkin, his unfavorables were still low coming out of the convention. They also kept in Senator Amanda Chase, who had threatened to run as an independent and a spoiler, literally was going to run as a spoiler for the Republicans if they didn't nominate her to be governor, sort of a hostage-taking situation. But she saw a path forward with ranked choice voting and stayed in the race. And the other candidates didn't attack her because they needed her supporters. So it has a very favorable, in my estimation, ranked choice voting is a very favorable impact on the party internally. I'm not there yet for general elections, but I think from a party building standpoint and strengthening the Democratic and Republican parties from inside, I think it's a very good thing. Unfortunately, the people who run the parties, to your point earlier, William, want to control the outcomes rather than trusting their own people. But ranked choice voting would definitely be a positive reform for both parties.
Well said. Mary, you got any thoughts on ranked choice voting?
No. I honestly it's not for lack of interest or anything. I just don't know much about it, and so I don't feel like I can speak to it unless I know more.
One of the critiques I know, and I do try to read up on this kind of stuff, is that it's too confusing for people, and that it would disenfranchise people, disencourage people from showing up to vote. I don't know necessarily how true that is in the numbers, but
That could be true only because the Electoral College is confusing as hell, and people still show up to vote. So
yeah, but it's a lot easier to say, I want A or I want B. Like these are my two votes. I'm casting one vote. That's it. Versus sitting there and having to actually involve yourself in the process and understand, all five candidates saying, Jill West is better than Jill Stein is better than Cornel West or whatever I'm going to place in this kind of ranked choice RFK. Like you actually have to pay attention versus, what I think is just laziness.
Do so to pay attention.
Well, it would encourage, let's just say, Donald Trump to get to 50% nationally. Let's just use the current top five we have. If Donald Trump wanted to get to 50%, what would he do? He would go after some of the issues that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is raising, right? Yeah, we should do something on chronic diseases. We should do something here and there, and try to get their Robert Kennedy Jr.'s voters on the second ballot, on the second round, if you will. That legitimizes and creates, more vibrancy in the election, so you get a greater sense of the will of the people. But both political parties and all their campaign consultants, their entire business model is predicated on a binary construct, which means we may not be good, but they suck more. And that's what's destroying our political system, is that we're not allowed to actually have the conversation about the issues that really matter between right and left. It's just that they're worse, and so that makes them worse. There's no improvement here. They just
so low
because they keep bludgeoning each other.
Yeah,
It's just
and running further and further to the poles on
exactly.
each side, and they run, the left runs farther left, and the right runs farther right. In the middle, 80% of America is stuck shrugging our shoulders, going, "What the hell?"
I mean,
And
Yeah.
the numbers. Who decided the nominees? Less than 10% of American registered voters determined the nominees for the Republican and Democratic parties. Less than 10%. And if you know that going in, what's your math to win that? Who do you get out? The worst of the 10%. That, like, you drive that base to this frenzy to get out and vote when no one else is really paying attention to it. And all of a sudden, these are the two, Biden and Trump. 70% of America doesn't want this. And yet, because of the binary construct and our duopoly, which is failing the country, which is corrupt, which is rotten to the core, it's just not going to be successful. Ranked choice inside the parties would reform the parties and have them actually discuss the policies and bring more people to the table, if you will. And I think it'd be a very positive reform that both parties should adopt. But the problem is they can't control it, and that's what they can't stand. The people who run the parties can't control it.
They would much rather have control than anything else.
Anything. It's about money, it's about power, about control. That's all it is. They want to control the outcome.
It does get me because personally, what I think that they're doing to Biden, the people, because he's not in charge. Let's be very honest with that. He is not in charge. The people who are making the decisions and stuff, this has got to be some form of like elderly abuse, because all about having the Democrats in control. I'm sorry. This is like some serious like elderly abuse that's happening right in front of us, where he's stuck up on stage every day. He's mumbling over his words. He forgets where he is. He doesn't know how to shake a hand or get off stage, or he gets tired. We all get tired, but at that age, you really get tired. Saka, our grandfather, just falls asleep at the drop of a hat. I'm sure Biden does too. He has in a meeting. So
I think I'm the one getting abused more than anything. That might be elder abuse, but this feels like abuse to me. Like for people that care about politics and that care about the future of this country, you have to look at this situation and go, I'm the victim of all of this. This is bullshit, and I need something else. I need a way out, and it's not, necessarily going to be let's stop mail-in balloting. Let's stop this and that. Like there's some other.
I'm just now getting the public safety alert that there was an earthquake. That was an hour
over 2 hours ago. At this point,
yeah, more
beautiful.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, okay. Well. Now we can take another deep dive into you guys want to go Tony Blinken talking about Ukraine, or you guys want to go into the Gaza ceasefire?
You call the ball, Maverick.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's go to Gaza. Let's talk about, because I think it's really interesting here. And I think you guys had a little bit of a disagreement there, but I think ultimately this is a way to placate to the left. And what my problem is like this now we have to come out basically, or Biden's gonna have to come out and say that they were right all along. Because nothing's really changed recently. The 7 aid workers is just like I hate to say this, but it's a drop in the bucket for what has been a pretty poorly run, from a moral standpoint, Israeli attack on Gaza the whole time. So now they have to come back and say, well, hey, we stepped too far here. Now we're going to call for the ceasefire and make that not look political and make that not look like it's for political gain. And that's going to be a tough sell too. So for people, this is what the lesson's saying all along. That this was an unjust war, that this is, all because Palestine can't defend themselves, all because, they pick a fight that they can't really stand up to. And Israel punches back pretty hard. And then everybody goes, whoa, that's a big counterpunch there, brother. Like, are you sure you had to hit that hard? It's war. Mary, your thoughts?
So at the beginning, I will say you have the right to defend your borders. Whether we do it on our end or not, Israel has the right to defend their borders. Their borders were breached. October 7th was a horrific day for Israel. However, and I am pro-Israel. I'm always going to be pro-Israel. However, they have consistently made, and they as in the IDF and Netanyahu, they have consistently made bad calls or had a ton of accidents that are no longer seeming like accidents. So you have to raise the question of what are they doing?
Well, that would have been your first one, so you're a little, you're not hitting quota.
But I need you guys to understand that, like, when you start from a perspective of studying war, this many accidents that are involving innocent civilians, it starts to add up, and it's hard to defend. It becomes very hard to defend, and it's like not to side with Biden or anything, but I also see his point. Like, you see too many oopsies, and you're like, maybe you guys shouldn't be doing this because you're not very good at it. You're not hitting the right people. You know, they hit that convoy 3 times. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Satellite images these days are in 4K. There was a clear logo on top. They cleared that path, those trucks to get in. Absolutely not. They knew better, and it was like the 3rd one in a row. Like, I'm so sick of these oopsies. We'll investigate it. We'll do better. No, fuck that.
Yeah, well, Hamas's playbook is to use human shields.
You guys want the moral high ground? You want all the money? Then do it off the rip. Be good at this. They're not good at it.
Otherwise, we're going to have to be the ones that do it again. So now the world police have to step in again and say, well, hey, now you're fighting a little too unfair. Like, this is, again, too much world policing. And I think either let the IDF do what the IDF is going to do, or stay out of it, just like in Ukraine. But this is where I do
think we can call them on their bullshit. However, calling them on their bullshit means that we have to be calling ourselves on our bullshit, and all of the airstrikes and stuff that we've done over the years, especially under the Obama administration. That dude was trigger happy. Tons of civilians and innocent lives passed away. So if we call if we call them on their bullshit, we got to call ourselves on our bullshit, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah. I don't disagree on holding people accountable to their actions. Clearly, when you screw up, you screw up. Hamas screwed up horribly on October 7th when it invaded and terrorized and killed 1,300 innocent civilians in Israel. Butchered them, raped them, pillaged, the worst atrocities we've seen in some time. There was going to be a reaction, and there's always an overreaction. And maybe this is the beginning of dialing back the overreaction, because these moments can change world opinion, and it can turn on you pretty quickly. I don't think Israel is as bad at defending itself as Mary Catherine is making it out to be. I don't think they're as mistaken. I think they're far more accurate and precise in trying to root out Hamas, who hides behind innocent women and children. They're a functionary of Iran. Whenever I hear Hamas, I think Iran. That's it. Hezbollah, Iran. This is what they're doing. These are like I said, functionaries of the Iranian regime. So, on balance, politically, Biden's got to do this to win Michigan, because he's losing a lot of votes there. He's got to win Minnesota, where a lot of Muslims are. You're going to see a population in Northern Virginia, in particular, turn against the Democrats if they don't do something. I've talked to Democratic chiefs of staff on Capitol Hill, and they are constantly being I don't want to say bombarded with emails, but they're being heavily pressured by interest groups. What I would like to do is find out where they're getting their money for all these interest groups, where that money's coming from, and who's paying for the people to go to Capitol Hill and make the rounds. And they get like tens of thousands of emails in a day, in individual accounts. They have to, so it's very impactful. And it's if this were an odd numbered year, it'd be different. But it's a presidential year, and he needs the votes.
There's something to be said, like, why we can't be too harsh with Iran is because we're trying to get oil out of the Middle East because we can no longer rely on Russia for these types of things. Do you think that there's a tie-in there?
That's a great question, William. Well studied, son. If you've seen the recent gas price increase over the last 3 months, and it's going to be over $4 this summer, according to AAA, that's going to have a negative impact on Biden's reelect, especially among independents who are inflation concerned and inflation impacted. And gas prices are a daily reminder whether you're winning or losing. So gas prices. That's why the Biden administration was upset with Ukraine for going after Russian refineries, because it upsets global gas and oil prices. So well done, son. You're breaking the code.
I'm on to something there, man. It's all weird to me. and it's all playing out at the same time
It's not
over
weird. It's
there,
money. It's votes.
overseas,
This is
and we
what
seem to be
impacts
having two
reality.
totally different, you know, at least the public handles it very differently. You know, we're calling for a ceasefire on one side, and then you have, 70% of Americans in that Harris poll that came out and said that, they support, us continuing to support Ukraine, at least financially. So, it's like, pick
Well,
your
this
war. How
this
is it very different?
show the complexities of geopolitics.
Mhm.
Like the true complexities of like there are actually situations that are like lose-lose. Like they're so complex. You have to pick a winner. Like if you want the oil, then you gotta stay on the good side with Iran. If you don't want oil and you want to say fuck it, then let's do it. It's so complex. It is so, and these are why Hamas and Hezbollah kind of exist and why they give them so much money, because they're doing their dirty work while they can keep their hands clean.
Mhm.
It is very dangerous. And I mean, we've even given money to, well, not we personally, but like as a country, we have given money to Hamas like 12 years ago. And we said, rebuild, do what you can. You want to be the government, be the government. We will subsidize that. They did absolutely nothing with that money. They pocketed it. There were no schools built. There were no hospitals built. There was no infrastructure projects started. Absolutely nothing. They took that money, they created bunkers, they did all this kind of stuff waiting basically for October 7th, for their time to shine. They are a terrorist organization. Period.
Whose leaders live in luxury in Qatar.
Luxury. They're not even in the country.
Not even there.
This is not rocket science when you look at it as they're an actual terrorist organization. We gave them the benefit of the doubt, which was absolutely asinine. And then we're like, then they acted like terrorists. We were surprised they acted like terrorists. And here we are. However, people were like, well, why didn't they leave? Why didn't they leave Gaza? Why didn't these innocent civilians leave Gaza? They were basically held prisoner. Like, people don't understand how terrorist organizations work. They are innocent. Do not get me wrong. For the most part, they've also been indoctrinated over the past 12 years that there are 12-year-olds that grew up under this regime, and they believe that the United States is evil. They believe that Jews in Israel are evil. Like, this is what they've been taught. They don't know any better.
Yeah, there's some chilling videos that came out after October 7th of like school-age children that they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're like, I'm going to kill Jews. Like, that was like, like, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. Like, I'm going to go kill Jews. And they were like, yeah, you are, like, wow. And that's really what it's like over there. So how innocent are these lives? You have to wonder.
Terrorist organization. And like, to understand, and this is where like I get so into this because I freaking masters in it. Understanding a terrorist organization is so different than understanding a government. And people are treating this like it's two governments fighting. Couldn't be more wrong. Couldn't be more wrong. If you understand how an organization like Hamas works, it changes your perspective. Are there innocents involved? Yes. Were innocents killed? Yes. Was the attack earlier this week, was that right? No. There are defining lines, and I think Israel has taken that a little advantage of that, of like, they're terrorists, blah, blah, blah. And I do sound contradictory, but I'm not. People who are coming in for aid, there's a difference. And you have even the top logo of the vehicles. That's why, like, with hospital tents have the X's or whatever, the crosses or whatever, so that they're not bombed. When you're in a deconflicted area, it is a no-go. You do not hit that. They hit it 3 times. Like,
even when there's known Hamas activity going on inside these hospitals, that's the Hamas playbook. So you kind of have to throw it out a little bit. But why do we get to call the balls and strikes on this?
I'm talking about in the deconflicted zones that they set, that Israel set. They set that deconflicted zone. They set that convoy route. They knew the route, and they still hit it. Absolutely. I can't advocate for that.
If there's no one's advocating for it, Mary Catherine. I mean, whether was it?
Israel made an oopsies.
No, I don't think that's the case whatsoever, Mary Catherine. Don't dismiss the reaction to this thing because that's too easy. That's just too easy to go, oh, it was so big deal. Oh, no, it's a big deal. It's hurting Israel. It's probably hurting them internally. It's probably hurting Netanyahu internally. It's hurting him internationally, clearly. And innocent civilians were obviously killed. I don't think we can show intent. It's far too early in the the review process and figure out what's going on there. But to William's point earlier, you got to call the balls and strikes fairly, but you got to know what the strike zone is. And this is part of the difficulty, to your point earlier, Mary Catherine, about geopolitics. It gets very complex very quickly. Hamas was elected once and has held a reign of terror ever since. They have the Palestinian Authority has rejected a two-state solution when it was given 98% of everything that they asked for. They still said no because they can't govern themselves. The Jordanians don't want any more Palestinian refugees. The Egyptians don't want them. Okay, they're going to kill each other if they didn't have Jews to kill. This is a very, very difficult part of the world.
Always has been.
It always will be.
Another thing to talk about. People who were like, oh, well, da-da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da. One, you don't fucking know shit. You don't know shit. This stuff's been going on for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So
this is so part of their cultures. Yeah. Look, we're not going to solve it here. But on a political context, this is having ramifications for Democratic turnout in the key swing states that they need. That's the bottom line here. That's what's driving Joe Biden's decision making, is about Muslims in Michigan and Dearborn, and being able to win Michigan and Northern Virginia and other areas where they have concentration of Muslims, because they're not showing up and not supporting the Democrats anymore, and it's going to hurt their chances electorally. Period.
I think potentially another dangerous thing that this does geopolitically is that you've seen a lot more President Xi and Biden talking to one another over the last couple of months, and I think that they're trying to strengthen some sort of relationship there, and that also scares the shit out of me, because I don't trust that guy whatsoever, or anything that comes out of China. But we seem to be going more and more into that, so that they don't team up with Russia, or they don't,
That's it.
And yeah, so it's all a chess game. It's not checkers, of course. We're not trying to downplay any of it. There's a lot of complexities to it, but I think that there's this huge impact that could be going on with China right now, and what the U.S. relations are trying to do there. Dad, do you have any thoughts on U.S.-China relations?
None. My God, it's inordinately complex, because we have huge economic ties with the number 2 economy in the world. We are trying to decouple them from having an intimate relationship with Russia, for obvious reasons. They've stayed out of the Ukraine conflict for obvious reasons. They need business. They're an export reliant country. They need to be shipping products overseas to continue to employ and feed their own people. This is the complexity of the relationship. China has got its own internal problems. They are significant. Their population is going to be, I don't want to use the word imploding, but they're just not repopulating themselves. And they have got to have a more stable economic future for their country and its people, or they're going to revolt in mass numbers. That's why the security state for them is so critical to their success. Not that I'm justifying them. That's just their rationale for these things. They are in a worse situation than we are. And as a result, they are far more dangerous. And by constructively engaging them, you decrease the likelihood of them invading Taiwan. And if that were to take place, Southeast Asia would be just an awful, awful situation. I don't see us escaping a nuclear war in that case. I don't.
I mean, James Kirby came out said that we don't support Taiwan independence, and that we still believe in the one China policy. So
it's called strategic ambiguity. We do what we don't. We say that we don't, but we do. Yeah, we treat Taiwan independently. We just don't say it publicly to embarrass China, because they can't. Their internal politics are very, very dangerous as well. And it's this is similar to what Jefferson said about slavery. We've got a wolf by the ears we can't let go. So you just sort of let it run for a while, and hopefully make the best of it, and hopefully the tension will go away.
Mm-hmm. Mary, any last thoughts?
Not all that.
Dad, any last thoughts?
No, great question, son. Bringing in the geopolitics, bringing in oil prices, gas prices. I'm very impressed with both of you. Thanks for bringing up ranked choice voting. I think it's a great opportunity to talk about reforms that this nation needs. I can probably get some guests to talk about some of these things if you want. If you want me to go in that direction, more than happy to.
Yeah, I think that's something that we can definitely take a deep dive in a future episode for sure. Maybe in the near future. So
Yeah.
with that, I think we can wrap it up. Please, everyone who's watching, like, subscribe, comment if you have anything that you would like to hear. We're more than happy to take a deep dive into whatever topics are out there and whatever's on your mind as well. Make this an engaging conversation. So to the two of you, have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you all soon.
See you. Bye, buddy.
Bye.
Love you all.
Bye.